Budget. What is a budget? So, actually, in the Constitution, it is not referred as budget. So, it is referred as the annual financial statement under Article 112. So, what does Article 112 says? That President is responsible for ensuring budget to be laid before both the House. So, the President has to lay the session in front of both the House, that is, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. And also, it says that the budget shall distinguish expenditure on a revenue account from other expenditure. So the budget has to be distinguished between the revenue and the capital expenditure. So the revenue involves the income or the expenditure on the daily basis. For example, if you are a businessman and you own a restaurant, so customers come to restaurant, eat daily, and you earn income, right? So you earn income on daily basis. So that is under revenue account. Whereas under capital expenditure, if you are a businessman and you want to invest on the large scale, so whatever the investment or the expenditure is in the large scale, that is capital expenditure. So what does Article 113 says? So it says that no demand for grant shall be made except on the recommendation of President. So except President's recommendation, you can grant or you can demand for grant. So unless there is no recommendation of President, you cannot demand for grant. So that is mentioned in Article 113. So what does Article 114 say? That no money shall be withdrawn from the consolidated fund of India except appropriate or the appropriation made by the law. So you cannot withdraw money on your will. So there is a specific law or the policies or setup or set of instructions have to be followed in order to withdraw money. So that is mentioned in Article 114. And also, money bill shall not be introduced in Rajya Sabha. So it is only introduced in Lok Sabha. And moving on, we have budget. So under this we have two types: revenue budget and capital budget. So under what is a revenue budget now? So this shows the income and expenditure, as I told you, on the daily basis. There is no creation of assets and no reduction of liabilities. Now what do you mean by this? So here the income or expenditure is on the regular basis. So you as a businessman, here you are not under revenue budget, you are not investing on the assets. For example, uh, imagine you are a wealthy man and you want to invest on land. So after investing, your land is your asset, right? So that is not involved here. It is only the income or the expenditure or the transaction going on the society on the regular basis. So same applies for the government. So this is under revenue budget. And here no reduction of liabilities. Here money is not considered where you pay the interest for the borrowed money. So that is not considered under revenue budget. So we have two types here: revenue receipts and revenue expenditure. Now what do you mean by this? So under revenue receipts, all the non-borrowed incomes of the government that is earned on the regular basis. So that is under revenue receipts. In that too, we have two types: tax revenue and non-tax. So under tax revenue, the government earns through the income tax, GST, custom duty on the regular basis. Whereas in non-tax, which involves if people take loans, they have to pay interest, right? So that is considered under non-tax. Then the fees, fines. So all these comes under non-tax under revenue receipts. Now what is revenue expenditure? So under revenue expenditure, all those salaries, pensions, subsidies, which government spends on for granting money to the states for the welfare. So all this comes under revenue expenditure. So this is on large scale, little large scale. So where government spends on these, so that comes under revenue expenditure. Now what is capital budget? So here it deals with assets and liabilities. Here the government spends on the interest where it borrowed money previously, and also creating assets here. So what is capital receipts and capital expenditure? So capital expenditure involves two types: debt creating and non-debt creating. So in debt creating, here as the word says, that is creating debt. So here it borrows money from RBI, commercial bank, or the worldwide institutions such as IMF, World Bank, where it borrows money and it has to pay interest, right? So that borrowing money from those institutions is under debt creating, whereas in non-debt creating, it recovers loans. Basically, it is a disinvestment, uh, where the government institution hands over to the private institution, where private institution has to the pay money, right? So here, non-debt creating in the sense the government is earning here. Here, under debt creating, the government is borrowing money here. So what happens in capital expenditure now? So here it is on a large scale, as I told you, purchasing defense equipments or investing on roads, infrastructure, anything it would be, but it is a larger scale, and also the loan repayment. So under debt creating, it borrowed the loan, and it has to pay the interest as well. So that paying of interest comes under capital expenditure. Now, what is effective capital expenditure? So effective capital expenditure is equal to the capital expenditure of the central government plus grants given to states for capital creation. So this is nothing but the refined or the modified version of the capital expenditure. So here it involves the normal expenditure of central government, also the grants given to the states. So why does it give the grants to the states? So that the states construct roads, highways, metro, where it leads to the development of the society, right? So in 2014 to 15, it was 12%. Now it is increased to 19%. So it is a progress happening here. Now we have deficits and its types. So we have revenue deficit, budget deficit, then effective revenue deficit, and the fiscal deficit. Now what is revenue deficit? So here the expenditure is more, but the income is less. So more than the income, expenditure is more here. So government spends more than it's earning. So what happens? This results to poor financial health of economy, right, or the government. So here revenue deficit is equal to revenue expenditure minus revenue receipts. Whereas in budget deficit, government's total expenditure exceeds its total receipts. Same thing happens here. Its total expenditure is more than the total receipts. Total receipts, as I told you, where the government earns. Right here, earning is less, whereas the expenditure is more compared to earning. Right. So here borrowings are excluded, but so the difference is in the budget deficit, even though expenditure is more than the earnings, but the exception is here borrowings are excluded under budget deficit. So budget deficit is equal to total expenditure minus total receipts excluding borrowings. Now, what is effective revenue deficit? So this was introduced in the year 2012 by the Fiscal Management and Budget Management Act FRBM, and it was later reviewed by the NK Singh Committee in 2016. So this is the refined version of the revenue deficit. So revenue deficit, as I told you, expenditure is more than the income. So under effective revenue deficit, here the exception is grants given by the government to the states are excluded. Now what is fiscal deficit? So what is a fiscal deficit now? So here government spends more than it earns, excluding borrowing. Same follows here. So anything which is related to fiscal here, it is always government. So government spends more than it earns, excluding borrowings. Again here borrowings are excluded. So fiscal deficit is equal to total expenditure minus total receipts. So what are the criteria for fiscal deficit? So fiscal deficit is not bad, but there are some criteria. That is, it should be within the maximum limit. So if it exceeds that limit, then it is bad for the economy, and it mainly depends on expenditure. So here, what government spends, that is highlighted here. So what are the drawbacks of overuse of fiscal deficit or high fiscal deficit? So it leads to inflation. So when government spends more, so there is more money within the hands of the citizens, right? So it leads to inflation, and also it leads to debt traps. If the government keeps on borrowing money, so there is a debt trap. When does the government pays the interest? So it will also lead to the future problem to future generation, right? Now, what is deficit financing? So here, when government doesn't have enough money to cover its expenses and borrows from the public or RBI, so what happens here? Here, imagine for example, the government needs 100 crore, but it earns only rupees 80 crores. So there is deficient or the deficit of 20 crore rupees, right? So in order to cover that 20 crore rupees, it borrows money from public or the RBI through what? Through internal borrowings. Internal borrowing in the sense through RBI or the public through different schemes or process where the uh, government pays interest later on to the public, right? So previously we have studied that, and also external grants such as the institutions such as World Bank, IMF. So this process is called as deficit financing. Now, what is National Investment Fund? So this constituted in 2005 by the government. So what does the National Investment Fund do? So here only for the specific purpose, or there is an emergency, or there is a need for appropriate investment. For that, in that case, only you can withdraw money from this fund. So this is located in public account, and the fund should remain there until withdraw or invest for approved purpose. So only if it is necessary, you can withdraw money and invest, or else you cannot. Now, looking through budget of 2025, we have uh, the micro enterprise, small enterprise, and medium. So here, the revised amount is the 2.5 crores, 25 crores, and 125 for for micro, small, medium, and the turnover is 10, 100, and 500 crores. So we have some of the schemes undertaken by the government, that is Bharatiya Bhasha Pustak scheme, where it provides digital form of Indian language books for school and higher education. Then we have five national centers of excellence in order to skill uh, to compete with global expertise and develop partnerships. Then we have Atal Tinkering Labs, where 50,000 lab has to be set up in the government schools in the next 5 years. Then we have broadband connectivity to provide all the government secondary schools and primary health centers in rural areas, and also expansion of medical education. That is 10,000 additional seats will be provided uh, of adding, and also the goal is to add 75,000 seats in the next 5 years. Then we have PM Swanidhi scheme. So this enhances the process of loans and also providing credit cards, increasing the capacity of credit cards to support. Then also the welfare of online platform workers. So registering on the eShram portal, eShram portal and healthcare under PM Jan Arogya Yojana. Then we have Center of Excellence in AI for Education, with total outlay of 500 crores. And also we have the daycare cancer centers, so building cancer centers in the district hospitals and expansion of capacity in IITs. Then we have tourism for employment led growth. So here top 50 tourist destination sites to be developed, both a partnership with central and the state. So also introducing streamlined e-visa facilities. Then we have Mudra loans, so Mudra loan for youths or the entrepreneurs. Then ease of travel and connectivity to tourist destination. So all these development has been taken by the government. Then we have Bharat Trade Net. So here a digital public infrastructure, Bharat Trade Net (BTN) for international trade. So this is for the international trade that will be set up as a unified platform for trade documentation and financing solutions. So the documentation will be made easier under Bharat Trade Net. Then we have expenditure of major items that has been taken place. So in exam, we could see the question, the increasing order of major expenditure, either through ascending or descending. So the major expenditure has been spent on defense. Then comes rural development, then home affairs, agriculture and allied activities, then education, health, urban development, then in telecoms, energy, commerce, and industry. So the first five would be important. So rest of them is not so important. But the defense, rural development, home affairs, agricultural and activities, education, and health. Then the most important topic is the where does the rupee comes from or the rupees goes to. So the rupees comes from mainly majorly from the borrowing and other liabilities. Then income tax, GST, corporate tax, non-tax receipts, new and excess duties, non-debt capital receipts, and rupees goes to state share, so granting money to states, then paying interest. If the government has borrowed money from the institution, it has to pay interest. So large amount of money goes there. Then central sector scheme, then centrally sponsored schemes, then finance commissions, other expenditure.